Hello, this is Phil Nelson. Welcome back to part 2. I've set up a separate worksheet for the shift worksheet. This is the one we worked on with the control key. Now we're going to work with the shift key. You can start with your cursor up in the header 01 pink cell up here. We're going to be working with the shift key and the right arrow, left arrow, down arrow, up arrow. And I'm going to show you how the shift page down and shift page up work. Of course, what we want to remember is that when we push the shift key down, we're causing it to anchor. But the interesting thing here is that when you push the shift key down, and I use my left index finger to push it down to leave my thumb free for the control key, you hit the right arrow, and you can see not only does it include the cell you have, but it highlights and selects the cell that you've moved to. So I've done several right arrows, and then we have down arrows. Now, for purposes of this demo, we're going to be listening to Andre playing the Blue Danube. So let's put your cell back in the pink cell, hold the shift key down, go right arrow 1, right arrow 2, right arrow 3, right arrow 4, right arrow 5, right arrow 6, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, left arrow, left arrow, down arrow, left arrow, left arrow, left arrow, down arrow, down arrow. This is not going to be a long lesson, as you can tell. Now let's use our last lesson, and let's let go of the shift key, hit the control key, and hit the down arrow. Whoa, look at that. Now let's go back to the shift key, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, right arrow, right arrow. Now this is especially good for the middle of a sheet, and I've got the green thing here shown, because you can highlight this and just hold your shift key down and go like that, and you've got it selected. You don't have to try to make sure that you get your mouse cursor in the right cell. So that's what there is with the holding the shift key down. Let's go back up to header 01, down arrow, right arrow, up arrow, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, right arrow, down arrow, down arrow, right arrow, right arrow, right arrow, right arrow, down arrow. So you can see that it is very nice to use for outlining areas. So with that done, you can practice on your sheet doing this, and once you've done it a few times, you'll get used to it. Now, if you hold the shift key down, you're going to anchor it once again, but going page down means you're going down a whole page. So let's see, we're on cell C4, let's page down. Now it has taken us down to cell C33. Now if you hold the shift key down and use the up arrow, you've gotten yourself there to line 26, which is the bottom of the chart. So we use the page down to move quickly and get a lot of data, but we also used it to use the shift with the up arrow to get to a particular location once we'd used the page down. So that completes this course. We're going to move on now to using a combination of the control key and the shift key. Okay, we're coming close to the end of the lessons, and you can practice this on your own, or with the video. Put your cursor in the pink cell. Now we're going to hold the control key down with the thumb, that's the left thumb, and then you hold the shift key down with your index finger. Now as we move to the right, use the right arrow. Look how it slides, but it also anchors and stays in place. Let's do a left arrow. Now let's do it with just the control key. You see what happened there? We're back to what we learned in our first lesson. So we can go control, shift, left arrow, down arrow. Okay, we've now highlighted the whole box. Now we can do it one more time, and I accidentally hit the left mouse at the same time. Now we can do everything, including the blank row. Now I'm still holding the control and the shift key down. I'm going to take my fingers off the keys and just move it. Now let's do a Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift up arrow, Control Shift left arrow, Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift left arrow. Now let's suppose we've gotten this far, but we also want to have that line down below. We can go like that, which is Control Shift down arrow, go back up, Control Shift up arrow, and just like the Control key, it stops between blanks. Now there's another way to do this, and that is we've gotten this far. Let's hold just the Shift key down and hit the down arrow. Down, down. Isn't that fun? So you can quickly change from using the Control Shift to just the Shift by itself, and it'll be anchored in place. If you use this on a regular basis, then you'll pick it up fairly quickly and use it all the time, as a matter of fact. So let's get your cursor and header 01, Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down. Now what's going to happen if we go one more time? Control Shift down. Right, we pick up all 1,048,576 rows. So let's go Control Shift up arrow. Up, there we go. Okay, does that make sense? Control Shift down, Control Shift right, Control Shift up. Now I could start down here, Control Shift up, up, left. Now you can imagine if this were hundreds and hundreds or thousands of rows, how nice it is to be able to have this shortcut. Okay, let's put your cursor and header 01. Now we do Control Shift End, E-N-D, the end key, right down here. Okay, Control Shift End, and it takes us right down to the end of the spreadsheet. Did it again. So it's going to the end of the table. Control End, or we can start down here and go Control Home. In this case, it's going into the upper left-hand cell. There's Control End, Control Shift Home. We've highlighted the whole spreadsheet from the bottom right-hand corner to the top. Now if you hold the Shift key down and do down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, right arrow, you've highlighted the whole chart by doing that. So let's try this again. Let's put your cursor up in A1. Now go Control End, Control Shift Home. Let go of the Control key, but keep your index finger on the Shift key. Down, 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 and then right arrow, right arrow. It becomes a very fast way to highlight a very large table. We can see the whole table on the screen here, but you know that you've got tables that are bigger than that. Then there's one final trick, the red outlined areas here. We can go Control plus on a highlighted column, and that's the way to insert a column instead of using the menu system. Control minus, and you can do the same thing in the rows. You can go Control plus, plus, minus, minus, and you're back to where you were. So that's a fast trick and a way you can insert rows and columns if you want to. Now if you highlight a central area like this and go Control plus, you can tell it to shift the entire row down and you'll get what you want. I'm going to Control minus and say I want to shift the entire row back up. Now if you don't do that, you do Control plus and you do shift just the cells down or to the right, you're going to move the whole chart down. There are times when you can use this, but you can imagine it can mess up your table, so keep an eye out on that. I use Control Z to clean this up. So that's about it on these, and just take your time and practice doing it. Maybe you can make up your own sheet if you can't download this from my blog.